already seen one method last time, correct? We talked about transportation model. Transportation model can be seen as a mathematical or a mathematical model or a matrix-based model in which you have suppliers. That means resources, which will the suppliers who are going to supply the resource to the places where the resource is required. Okay, so that means the destination. So in this case, normally you have your demand centers. So 4 demand centers and then 3 suppliers. Every supplier have different capacity, supply capacity, and similarly different demand centers have different demand, which are demand with them. So now what is indicated here is the cost per unit cost of satisfying the demand. So that means if I'm going to transfer even 1 ton of material from S1 to D1, it is going to cost me 4,000 rupees. Okay, it is in thousands. तो आप उसको simplify करके मतलब instead of thousands you can only just write 4. Okay, and whatever will be the final answer that you get, you can multiply it by 1,000. So it would be taken care. The method that we have seen earlier was northwest corner rule method. That was to get an initial basic feasible solution. Initial basic feasible solution means a solution from where at least we'll start with. Okay, so फिर बाद में you will just go on optimizing it. So some place to start. Okay, so we used what the method used to say. What was the focus of the method? Can somebody just revise the method for me? Northwest corner rule method. Now, the first method was having a drawback in terms of, since it was not looking at the cost. Okay, northwest corner cell hai, whatever be the cost of it, just simply allocate. But that is not how it should have been, because cost becomes the primary objective of optimization. So we need to also take into consideration, and hence we come to the second method. Second method says allocate the maximum possible in the least cost cell. Okay, so when I look at all the cells, which is my least cost cell?
Fourth.
Yes.
S1 D1.
S1 D1. So that means how much can I allocate here?
20.
Sorry. The minute I allocate 20 here, okay, so the demand for D1 has exhausted. So no further allocations could be possible in S2 and S3, D1, S2 D1 and S3 D1, and this will reduce the supply capacity of S1 from 40 to 40 minus 20. So that is 20. Correct? Now, which is my next least cost cell?
S1 D2.
S1 D2. At the same time, I have S2 D3 and S3 D3 also. Okay, so I can choose to allocate in any of these 3. Now, which one to choose? If I go with S1 D2, how much will I be able to allocate here?
20.
20. What about S2D3?
Fifty. Yes.
What about S3D3?
50, sir.
50, sir.
50. So that means here I will be able to allocate 20, and in these two cells I will be able to allocate 50, correct? So wherever you can allocate the maximum, that cell is to be chosen. Now, this we will ignore and we'll choose these two. Now, let us look at these two. I will be able to allocate 50 here. Even here also 50 is only possible. Now, let us think a step beyond. If I allocate 50 here, okay, then if I look at the supply constraint, 60. So that means another 10 would be left out, and that will come up in this particular cell. Okay, correct? And if I allocate 50 here, then nothing would be. So I can choose either of the two. But if I choose this one, okay, then this will not come. So what will happen is there is a possibility that I may land up allocating a good number, a big number here. So which is a higher cost cell. So other than doing it there, I will make an allocation here. Are we clear? Why am I choosing this one?
Yes, sir.
So if I allocate 50 here, my demand for D3 gets exhausted, and I will not be requiring any allocations here in these two cells. At the same time, the supply capacity of S3 has also exhausted. So that means no further allocations would be coming here, neither here. Clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
What is the next least cost cell? Six.
Six
Sir,
again.
Six. Six is
S3D2 and S2D4. Sorry.
So actually S1D2 is what we will be looking at now, because the cost element is 6. Okay. So this is the least cost if we look at the unallocated cells. So 6, 8, 8, 7. So this is the least cost. What is the maximum that I can allocate here? 20.
20.
20. Yes, sir.
Okay. So let's allocate 20 here. The minute I allocate 20 there, I'm left out with only just 10
Yes,
more
sir.
units of demand, whereas the supply capacity has exhausted for S1. So that means no further allocation would be coming here. Now we are left out with only just these two cells. Okay. And in this column, only one cell is left out. So even if we look at it, so this 10 units will be coming in this cell only. Still, if we want to go by rule, so I would say the next least cost cell is 7. And what is the maximum that can be allocated here?
50.
50.
50.
50, sir.
At this juncture, even if we would have not followed that rule of least cost cell, because we were left out with only just these two cells, we could have easily finished. Okay, so this reduces to 10, and this has also exhausted. Fine. Now we are left out with only just one cell, and the remaining demand would be coming here only. So this is my last allocation. With this, my demand D2 has also exhausted. At the same time, supply capacity of S2 has also exhausted. What is my total cost of allocation.
So m plus 1 minus 1. M plus n minus 1.
That is number of allocations. M.
So 20 into 4 plus
Very
20 into
good.
6 plus
Very
10
good.
into 8 plus
Very
50 into 6 and plus 50 into 7.
okay. How much does that comes out to be?
$16.50 I guess.
नहीं कुछ तो गड़बड़ किया भाई.
Sir, 9:30.
It would be 9:30.
So 9:30.
9:30 आ रहा ना? मैंने पहले किया था ना,
Yes, sir.
मेरे को ये याद है.
Yes, sir.
Because I had done this thing for the other batch.
That's the 980.
Sir, one
980.
question.
Yes.
Sir, in S2 D3 and S3 D3, why did you take the lowest one, like the below 6 and not the above 6?
Okay. Okay. See, if I would have taken this cell and I would have allocated 50 here, then this 50 would have came. This 50 would have came in this cell, which is a higher cost cell. Correct?
Yes, sir.
इसके लिए मैंने जानबूझ करके instead of taking it here, मैंने यहाँ पर लिया. Actually, the rule indicated in the books doesn't say so. Okay. But out of my experience, what I have realized is if I do it this way, the number of iterations required for optimization would be less. Okay. So what I'm adding to the method is my experience. And that is what I have translated in words for you also, so that it saves some time for you also. Okay. ये common logic है ना? It is exactly like playing chess. अगर मैं ये मूव करूंगा तो फिर बाद में सामने वाला क्या मूव करेगा? So on the same lines, what I did was instead of allocating it here, because if I would have allocated there, then this 50 would have landed up in this cell, which is a higher cost cell. और आप सोचिए 1 टन के लिए 2000 रुपीस बढ़ रहा है. 50 टन वहां पर 50 टन आएंगे. 50 टन मतलब सीधा सीधा आपका 1 लाख रुपीस बढ़ जाएगा. करेक्ट? Correct? Yes, no.
Yes, sir.
In case if you are still facing some difficulty, तो हम एक काम कर सकते हैं. आप ये allocation ना just ऐसे उल्टा करके देखिए and calculate the total cost. ये कितना आ रहा है? 20 into 4 is 80, 120, so 300 हो गया. 380 plus 300, so 680. 680 plus 350. So 680 plus 350 comes to 930. It would be 930 only. अनिश, आपको शायद ज्यादा आ रहा था ना?
नहीं सर, अभी 9:30 आया, अभी बराबर है.
आया ना? हाँ. Okay. Now let us look at the number of allocations. Number of allocations says 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, we have got 5 allocations, but actually how much we should have got? M is number of rows. Number of rows are 1, 2, 3. N is number of columns 1, 2, 3, 4. So 3 plus 4 is 7 minus 1. So we should have got actually 6, but instead of 6 we have got 5. So that means what we have received is a degenerate basic feasible solution. Done? Done up to this?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, let us look at it again. The drawback that we faced here. What was happening here is, if I am not able to, if I make an allocation in, if I would have made an allocation here, what would have happened is the last allocation would have come here. So that means last में आपका जो allocation आएगा, it may land up in a higher cost cell. So that means you are running a risk. So the next method actually tries to takes care of this risk. What it says is, wherever the risk is higher, okay, focus on that first. Okay, so that means in any particular row or a column, if I am not able to, okay, allocate in the least cost cell, and I am forced to allocate in a higher cost cell, okay, second least cost cell, then how much extra do I pay? That is your penalty. Penalty of not being able to allocate in the least cost cell. Okay, that's the reason why we call this method as Vogel's approximation method or penalty cost method. In some of the books, it is also written as only just penalty method. Okay. So what this method does is it identifies the penalties first, and wherever the penalty is higher, it actually addresses that first. Okay, so let us write it down. What do we mean by penalty? That is clear with everyone. Penalty is the extra cost that will be incurred in the second least cost cell instead of the least cost. Correct? Hopefully it will help. Are we clear with penalty? What penalty is?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So now what we'll do is, let's try and put it to use. Okay. First row, what would be the penalty? This is my least cost cell. This is my second least cost cell, correct? 4 and then 6. If I am not able to make an allocation in this cell, I'll be forced to make an allocation here. So how much extra I may be required to pay? Six minus 4. Correct? So it would be 2. Is everybody following it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now let us look at the second row. Least cost is 6. Here also 6. if I'm unable to make an allocation in this, then I will be making an allocation here. So in this particular case, the penalty is 6 minus 6, that is 0. Because I have an alternate option available. Hence, the penalty is 0. Clear? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Now let's look at the third row. What would be the penalty?
1.
1. 6 minus 5, 1. This is my least cost cell. This is my second least cost cell. Now let's look at it from column wise. So 4 and 5. So 5 minus 4 is 1. So in this particular case, the penalty would be 1. What about here? 7 and 6. The penalty would be
1.
What about this column? The penalty would be
0.
2.
will be 0 because we have got two options available for 6. So 6 minus 6, it would be 0. What about this?
1.
1.
1, sir.
1. 8 minus 7, 1. Which is my highest penalty? Row S1, correct?
Oh, S1. Yes, sir.
So we will consider this row and we will make the maximum allocation possible in the least cost cell. समझ रहे हो हम इसको क्यों चूज कर रहे हैं? Because यहाँ पर हमारा रिस्क सबसे ज्यादा है. Okay, the methods that we are using is for minimization. So हम यहाँ पर किस में allocate करेंगे maximum possible? S1 D1. We can allocate how much?
20.
20. So my demand will get exhausted for D1. So no further allocations would be possible here. Whereas supply capacity of S1 will reduce from 40 to 20. Correct? Fine. Yes, no.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Now we'll do is we'll recalculate the penalties. What is the current status now after an allocation made in S1 D1? So now again we'll start looking at penalty. So least cost is 6. Second least is either of the two, 8. So that means my penalty is 8 minus 6.
2,
2.
sir.
What about the second row? What is my penalty?
2. Hey, 2.
It would be 1. 6
Okay.
and 7. Okay. What about my third row?
1.
1.
1. Very good. What about the column? Now this column we will not be considering because the demand for that particular column has exhausted. Now we'll start with this column. Okay. So what is my penalty for this column?
1.
1.
1, sir.
6. 7 minus 6, 1. What about column D3?
0.
2.
0.
It would be 0 because we have got
0.
two
6
least
minus.
cost cells. So 6 minus 6. Penalty is if I am not able to allocate in a least cost cell, then what is the extra that I am going to pay if I have to make an allocation in another cell? So we have got two options here. Hence, the penalty would be 0. Okay. What about this one? The penalty would be how much?
1. No, 0. 0.
It would be 1. 7,
1, sir.
8, 8.
8.
0 है ना?
हमारे पास में 8 के दो ऑप्शन है, but least cost cell is 7. So 7 के comparison में instead of 7, I will be forced to pay 8. So what is extra that I am paying? That allocation can come in either of the cell, correct? So how much extra I may have to pay? 8 minus, so that is Yes. Still any doubts?
No, sir.
Clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, again, we will look at the highest penalty element. So highest penalty is in the second iteration, the highest penalty is 2. So we will again consider, since it is in a row, I'll consider this row then for allocation. We'll start looking at this row. The least cost cell in this row is 6. What is the maximum that we can allocate here?
20.
20.
We'll allocate the entire 20 here. The minute I allocate 20, this demand reduces to 30 minus 20 is 10. And this supply capacity has exhausted. So from 20, this becomes 0. That means it cannot supply to D3 or D4 after this. Okay. Now, we'll again calculate the penalty. Yes. We'll again calculate the penalty. This time S1, since the capacity of S1 has exhausted, so we will not be calculating penalty for S1. Fine. Are you able to hear any background noise from my side?
No, sir. It's good.
A little bit.
Little bit.
No. Sorry, and your voice is little breaking. Like when you're talking, sometimes it breaks. Not every time, but sometimes.
Actually, there is some work going on close by. So I think they are cutting or grinding something. I have already switched off my fan also so that there is no disturbance. Hopefully, in case if you hear any background noise, please do let me know so that I can try and see what more can be done. I have already closed down everything, all the windows also. Till dekhte hain. Fine. Okay. So this has been done. We will recalculate our penalties. So when we recalculate our penalties, what will be our penalty along this row? 6 and 7. So 7 minus 6 would be 1. Similarly for this, 6 and then 7. So 7 minus 6 would be 1. Now if we go column wise, so here it would be dash. But what about this one? 8 and 7. It is 1. 6 and 6. So 0. 8 and 7. 1. Now, since we have got ones, 1, 1, 1, and 1. So at 4 places we have got 1. So now how are we going to decide which one to choose? The one which has the least cost cell. Okay. So if I go from here, the least cost cell would be 7. If I go using this column D4, the least cost cell is 7. But if I go from this row, the least cost cell is 6. And if I go from this row, the least cost cell is 6. So it's better to use either of the two. Okay. And when we are taking up either of the two, okay, so which one to choose depending upon the maximum allocation which they can accommodate, because for both the rows, the least cost cell is 6. Now, if I look at it that way, then this will be able to bear an allocation of 50 units, whereas this will also be able to bear an allocation of 50 units. Now, the same logic will be applied here also. in case if I don't make an allocation here, okay, 10 units will come here, but then rest of the 50 units for this supply will come here, which is a higher cost cell. So it's always preferable to, instead of making an allocation here, it's better to make an allocation here so that the 50 doesn't goes in this particular cell. Okay. Are we clear with this?
Yes, sir.
So what we'll do is we'll have
So
to
could you
choose
please
this
explain this last step once again?
again. Okay, good. I will do it again. Now what is happening here is if I go with this column, so the least cost cell is 7. If I go with this column, least cost cell is 7. Okay. If I go along the row, least cost cell is 6. If I go along this row, the least cost cell is 6. So 6 is the least cost cell. So my preference would be to make an allocation in the least cost cell. So least cost cell is 6. So I would prefer this one. Okay. Whenever
Sir,
there's
matlab,
I,
sorry, sir.
yes, yes.
Matlab, sir, we are randomly seeing the row column both, na, for this.
No. We are not seeing them randomly. We are checking them based on their penalty values.
Okay.
ठीक है? हम उनको penalty के हिसाब से देख रहे हैं. Now since the penalties are having a tie, we are considering all of them one after another and we are seeing कि किसमें हमको least cost cell मिलता है. तो जिसमें भी हमको least cost cell मिलेगा, that particular row or column penalty becomes our preference for allocation. Okay.
So, sir, D3 में तीनों 0 था बोल के we took 6, right?
इसमें
Sir, in the D3 column, we can see that all the penalties are 0. So that's why we checked it, right?
हाँ, इसके लिए हम उसको पहले कंसिडर नहीं कर रहे हैं. Because our concern is not based on the column. Our concern is based on the row. ठीक है. उसमें भी हम लोग अल्टीमेटली लैंड अप तो वहीं कर रहे हैं, सेम कॉलम पे ही आ रहे हैं. बट फिर वो टाइम पर व्हाट विल डू इज वी विल लुक एट हाउ वी कैन do a better allocation so that number of iterations are reduced. अगर मान लो मैं मिस भी कर गया ये आइडिया और मैंने allocate कर दिया, so there is no harm in doing that because at the time of optimization you may require a couple of more iterations and then you may get a final solution. But if we do smart allocations in the very beginning itself, so that will help us in reducing the number of iterations later. Okay. So मैं just मेरा experience जो रहा है उसके base पर I'm telling you that always try and see एक दो step और आगे का कि अगर आपने एक इसमें allocate किया तो कहीं ऐसा ना हो कि दूसरा allocation किसी बड़े सेल में हो जाए, बड़े cost सेल में. Okay. Clear? Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Is it clear now? So हम क्या कर रहे हैं? Column wise हमने देखा. So least cost was 7. From this column, least cost was 7. But if I start looking at from this row, least cost is 6. From this row, least cost is 6. So we can choose either of the two. Then we look at total allocation that is possible. So in this case, in this particular cell, the total allocation will be 50. And in this case, the total allocation is 50. So again, there is also a tie. So फिर तब हम देखेंगे कि if I make an allocation in this, then no allocation will come here. But if I make an allocation here, तो ये वाला column पूरा exhaust हो जाएगा. Then allocation will come in this cell, which is a higher cost cell. So to avoid that, we decided to make an allocation in this cell. Clear? Is the logic clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Any doubts with anybody?
Sir, can you repeat what you said? Like this 50 wala part.
Whenever there is a tie between two cells in terms of number of allocation also, then you should always look at कि if you make an allocation in that particular cell, तो उसके बाद में बचा हुआ allocation किस cost के cell पे आ रहा है. अगर किसी में बहुत ज्यादा higher cost में आएगा, so उसको avoid करना है. Okay. So if I would have made an allocation here, it would have landed me in this, then the next allocation would have come in this cell. But if I make an allocation here, the next allocation will come in this cell, which is the cost element for this cell is 7 और इसका 8 है. तो 8 में अगर जाता तो मेरा कॉस्ट बहुत ज्यादा बढ़ जाता था. 7 में मेरा बढ़ेगा, बट इसके जितना नहीं बढ़ेगा. करेक्ट? 8 वाले के जितना नहीं बढ़ेगा. फाइन.
Yes, sir.
So the minute I make an allocation here, the demand capacity reduces to 0 and no further allocation would be possible here, whereas the supply capacity of S3 has exhausted. And now we are left out with these two cells only. Actually, यहाँ पर, since it has exhausted, so there will not be any further allocation coming in these cells. So now we are left out with only just one row, two cells. Okay. And यहाँ पर इस कॉलम में देखेंगे तो एक ही सेल बचा हुआ है. 50 का एलोकेशन आएगा. So you are left out with no choice. So even if you don't calculate penalty now, it's okay. You'll be making an allocation of 50 here. So demand for this will also get exhausted. Okay. This will reduce to 10. And then we are left out with only just one cell. So we'll make an allocation there. 10. So this demand has also exhausted to 0, whereas this supply has also exhausted to 0. Now my total cost of allocation in this particular case will be how much? हमको same allocations मिले जैसे हमको least cost cell में मिले थे. Correct?
Yes, sir.
So that means total cost of allocation will also be the same. How much it is? 9.
30.
Sorry for the crooked handwriting. भावनाओं को समझो. ठीक है? Now the total number of allocations that we have got again in this particular case is 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. Perfect. What we'll do is now we can take up, okay, say हम लोग ये वाला एक लेते हैं and we'll start optimizing this. Fine. We'll do that. Now we'll move to the optimization method. पहला हम stepping stone देख लेते हैं. Fine.
Yes, sir.
So what we'll do is somebody by mistake, I think somebody clicked on request control. What we'll do is we will We'll go for optimization now using stepping stone method. Okay, so we'll just copy the allocations here. 20, 20, 10, 50, and 50. Okay, so I'll put the allocations. थोड़ा सा इसको बड़ा करते हैं so that we'll make it big. At the same time, we'll have it in a different color so that we can easily identify. Is it visible? Normally हम लोग इसको round के अंदर डाल के रखते हैं, so we can do that also. Normally allocations हम लोग इसमें से round में बताते हैं. So we have got 20 here, we have got another 20 here. Okay, after this, we have got 10, 50, 50. So 10, 50, 50. Okay, so this is what we have received as an allocation. Now, if you look at the number of allocations that we have got is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Correct? A second. Before we do this, I need to also tell you how stepping stone method is actually used. तो उसके लिए थोड़ा सा सिंपल ये यूज करते हैं. ठीक है, we will do it now itself, and इसमें हम लोग degeneracy भी अभी same time we will be able to handle. Okay,
Sir,
since the number of
Sir?
allocations are less. Yes.
Sir, that 50 should be in D4S2, right?
This solution I have taken from northwest corner rule method. So there, that time we have got 20, 20, 10, 50, 50.
Okay, got it, sir. Got it.
Okay. I am doing this so that we get a couple of iterations, and while doing those couple of iterations, अपना revision भी हो जाएगा. Okay.
Got it, sir.
Since it's now what this stepping stone method says is, if I make an allocation in the non-allocated cell, then what is the net effect? Okay. So if I consider this cell, this particular here, now what will happen is, is it visible clearly? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
other color. Data. Okay, so if I am assuming an allocation in this particular cell, what will happen is I will have to readjust. That means if I assume 1 unit of allocation in this particular cell, okay, so the minute I make an assumption of 1 unit of allocation in this cell, the supply capacity, since it is fixed at 40, I will have to reduce it from either this one or this one, correct? Correct? Yes or no?
Sir, please repeat.
If I assume an allocation of 1 unit in this particular cell, S1D3, then since the supply capacity is fixed at 40 and the demand is also fixed at 50, both the values will change. This should have been 41, this should have been 51, but it is not so. So if I add 1 unit here in this cell, okay, then I will have to subtract 1 unit from this cell to maintain my constraints the same. So that means I will have to subtract 1 unit from here. Correct?
Yes, sir.
If I have to subtract 1 unit from here, okay, my row constraint on this side will become 59. Correct? 10 plus 49 becomes 59. 10 plus 49 becomes 59. So it is just not possible. So this is 60. So if I reduce 1 from here, I will have to add 1 here. Correct? Just to maintain my row and column constraints. Correct? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Now, if I add 1 here, okay, so this, the constraint that is 30 will become 31. Correct? So I will have to reduce 1 from here. So if I reduce 1, this still remains 30. And this has also got balanced. मैं +1 इधर कर रहा हूँ, -1 इधर कर रहा हूँ. So this is still maintained at 40 and all the other constraints have also remained unchanged. Correct? This is what is called as forming a loop. Loop formation. So whenever you will have extra allocations, you will observe that there are loop formations. Now let us look at the net effect for this particular loop. Okay, so I will again go back here and we'll just type out things. So let us say I will be typing out here S1 D3 will, if I add 1 in S1 D3, so my cost will increase by 8 rupees, correct? So 8 rupees will get added up. When I am adding 8 rupees here, then 1 unit gets subtracted from this cell. So that means my cost will reduce by 6. So minus 6. If I am subtracting from here, I am adding here. So my cost is increasing by 8 rupees. So plus 8. And when I'm adding here, I'm subtracting from here. So minus 6. My cost will reduce by 6 rupees. So what is the net effect? 8 minus 6 plus 8 minus 6. Total 8 minus 6 is 2. 2 plus 8 is 10. 10 minus 6 is 4. So if I make an allocation in S1 D3, my cost will increase by 4 rupees. Are we clear up to this?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, let me test it for another cell. Okay. Now, let me take up some easier ones and then we will take up the difficult ones. Okay. So I will take S2 D1 now. So in case of S2 D1, that means this cell, okay, will now we'll be using red color now. If I assume an allocation in S2 D1, okay, so that means plus 1 cost will get added here. Okay. What will happen here? In this cell, minus 1. So that my demand constraint is remaining the same. If I add 1, so ये 21 हो जाएगा. So अगर मैं इधर पर से minus 1 कर दूंगा, so this becomes, this is maintained at 20. Correct? Yes, no.
Yes, sir.
Now, since I have reduced from here, this supply constraint will change. It will become 39. So I will have to add in another allocated cell. So loop में आप हमेशा from one allocated cell to another allocated cell ही move करते हो, and you will move horizontally or vertically only. Fine. Now if I add 1 here, automatically my demand constraint gets imbalanced. So this 30 becomes 31. So to manage this, I will subtract from here. So अभी क्या हो गया? मेरा demand भी manage हो गया. At the same time, supply में भी देखिए. When I had added 1 here, so this becomes 61. When I have added subtracted 1 from here, this becomes 60. So it is balanced. Now in this particular loop, we call it as loop formation. So in this particular loop, for S2 D1, what is my net effect? Plus 6 minus 4 यहाँ पर हम प्लस कर रहे हैं, तो plus 6 minus 8. Correct? I will go back and write it there. So S2 D1, since I have added 1 unit here, so my cost will increase by 6 rupees. Then since I have subtracted 1 unit from here, S1 D1, so my cost will reduce by 4 rupees. Since I had subtracted here, So I will be adding in this cell. So my cost will increase by 6 rupees. And since I have added here, I will have to subtract from this cell. So my cost will reduce by 8 rupees. Correct? So what is the net effect? 6 minus 4 is 2, plus 6 is 8. 8 minus 8 is 0. So that means making an allocation in this particular cell will make no difference in the total cost element. Hello?
Yes, sir.
Is this clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now we will take up the degeneracy issue. Okay. आपको अभी ये clear हो गया how to form a loop? Loop is formed by moving from one allocated cell to another allocated cell only, that too either horizontally or vertically, so that your demand and supply constraints are maintained. Clear? याद रहेगा? Should I type it out for you?
Yes, sir.
Loop is formed by moving from one allocated cell to another allocated cell to so as to maintain the demand and supply constraint. ठीक है? याद रहेगा?
Yes, sir.
Great. Now what we'll do is we'll take up some other options now. Okay? क्योंकि इसमें एप्सिलॉन की जरूरत पड़ती है because it's a degenerate basic feasible solution. Okay? So अगर ये normal basic feasible solution होता तो problem नहीं थी. Fine. Now let us look at S1D4. So we'll go back here. Okay. In case of S1D4, अभी देखिए यहाँ पर आप जो भी कुछ ये कर रहे हैं ना, हम इसको भी यहाँ पर actually mention कर देते हैं. We'll insert those values. Here we have got it as we got 4, correct? And इसका color भी same कर देता हूँ so that you can easily make out how the loop was formed. Perfect. Will it help? Similarly, we did it for this also. We call this as opportunity cost. Okay. Here in this case, it was 0. On color, let me make it red so that you can make out the loop formation also. Are we clear up to this? So this indicates if I'm going to make an allocation in this cell, it will increase my cost by 4,000 rupees. If I make an allocation, even a single allocation in this cell, it will not change anything. Okay, so there will total cost of allocation will not change. We'll go for S1D4 now. Now in this particular cell, S1D4, if we try to make a loop, okay, are we able to do so? क्या मैं एक एलोकेटेड सेल से ऐसे मूव करते करते मैं वापस जो स्टार्टिंग सेल था वहां तक आ सकता हूं क्या? Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, in case of a loop, when you start from one cell, you have to again come back to the same cell, okay, by hopping from one allocated cell to another allocated cell. So, and you have to move horizontally or vertically only. Okay. So if I consider this one, okay, say, let me take some other color now. Okay. So if I start from here, +1. Okay. So if I start from here and I have to move horizontally or vertically. Okay. So will I be able to? If I go to this, then I can jump here. Okay. Vertically. Then not possible at this juncture, because after this I won't be able to go anywhere. Correct? Because I am not able to find any horizontal or vertical allocation from this cell. I can only just go back. So going back doesn't make any sense. So what we'll do is, since the number of allocations are less, this is why we are getting this problem. So what we'll do is, we'll assume an allocation in a cell which will help us in completing the loop. So that is an introduction of an epsilon. Okay. So what we'll do is, if I assume an epsilon here, then I will be able to form a loop 1, 2, 3, 4. Correct? And epsilon will be almost equal to 0. So
Sir,
yes.
so could you please once again explain like why do you need to introduce epsilon now?
I will just a second. I will just put this thing here now. Just a minute. Let me put. Okay. Just a minute. I'm not able to find the exact symbol of epsilon. ये उल्टा epsilon दिख रहा है. Okay, we'll use this only. So epsilon very small value almost equal to 0, but not 0 and indicates an allocation. Okay. Now, what is happening here is, since the number of allocations are less, okay, we won't be able to form loop for majority of the cells. Okay. If I am considering S1 D4, okay, so I will not be able to form a loop, because if I move from S1 D4 to say S1 D2, from S1 D2 I can jump over to S2 D2. From S2 D2 I cannot go this side. On this side I have only just one allocation. So if I come here, after that I cannot go up or down. So the number of allocations are less. That's the reason. So instead, instead of S1 D2, from here I would have taken S1 D1. So after S1 D1 I cannot move anywhere. So because I cannot go back. Okay. So if I look at it from this side, so I don't have any other allocation where I can move on. So we can assume an epsilon, okay, in a cell which is the least cost cell. Okay, आप कहीं भी ले सकते हो, just to ensure that you are able to form the loop at the same time. At the same time, it is not forming a loop with the allocations. So if I put an epsilon here, okay, in this cell, so it will not form a loop with any one. But अगर मैं epsilon को इधर पर डालूंगा, so it will form a loop here itself. So you cannot place an epsilon in a cell where it will form a loop, but you will have to place an epsilon in a cell where it doesn't form a loop and helps you in completing the loop for the cell that you are considering. Okay, but एक बार आपने एप्सिलॉन डाला तो फिर आप दूसरे सेल के लिए वापस से नहीं डाल सकते हो, बट एक एप्सिलॉन से आपका काम हो जाएगा. Okay, so what I am going to do is it clear or still any doubt?
It's clear, sir.
In case still if somebody is having any doubt, please do let me know. Okay. What I am going to do is, I am going to place this epsilon in this cell. Since I am going to treat it as an allocation, okay, so थोड़ा सा line color दे दिया जाए. I will change the shape also to round. Is it fine? Is it clearly visible? Hello, is it clearly visible?
Sorry, can you make it little larger, little more?
Okay, I will do that. Is it visible now?
Yeah, sir, little better.
Great. So now I will go back again to my drawing board and I will start with my loop formation. Okay. So if I start moving from one cell to another allocated cell, अभी देखिए, I have one option here. Okay. Second, this epsilon will also be considered as an allocation. ये हो गया. Next jump, then another jump, and then another jump back to my starting cell. So that way, I will be able to form a loop. I will be able to complete my loop. Okay. So if I assume +1 here, then -1 will come here. +1 will come here, and then -1 will come here. I hope you know why I'm putting +1, -1. I'm waiting for the response.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So in this particular case, my cost will increase, say, +8, -4, +5, -8. Okay. +8, -4. So I'll just put those values here in my S1D4. So it would be +8, -4, +5, -8. What is the net effect? 1.
Yes, sir.
Correct? 8 minus 4 is 4. 4 plus 5 is 9. 9 minus 8 is 1. So if I am going to make an allocation in S1D4, it will increase my cost by 1. So उधर के लिए भी हम opportunity cost को डाल देते हैं. Fine. So I just put it here. So it would be 1. Let me change the color. Fine. Now let us look at the other cells. अभी बाकी cells में ना अपने को दिक्कत नहीं आएगी because the number of allocations were less. इसलिए हमको दिक्कत आ रही थी. Now since we have already introduced epsilon, अब हमको problem नहीं होने वाली है. Fine. So next cell क्या लेंगे हम लोग? Next cell इधर पर का हो गया. In this particular row, this is the only cell which is left out. So we will take S2D4. Fine. So S2D4 इसमें अभी आपका loop कैसे बनेगा? Will we be able to form a loop? तो एक काम करते हैं. Confirm the loop now. Lines draw करते हैं हम लोग so that it would be easy for you all to visualize. Because यहाँ पर loop ना थोड़ा सा अजीब बनेगा. So if I start from here to here, correct? इसका कलर कुछ ऐसा करते हैं so that it is visible to all. And again, since I want it to be dotted, थोड़ा सा thick कर देते हैं. I will increase the weight. Color अलग कुछ करें क्या? So that it is clearly visible. Which color would be fine? Hello. Aqua color. Orange. Fine. So from here, I will move here. So what would be the next thing? From here, where can I go? Correct? To this cell. Can I? बराबर है? This is my next allocated cell.
Yes, sir.
When nobody is saying anything, it becomes difficult for me to understand whether you guys are understanding or not. Even if you are not understanding, please do let me know. I will try and find out some other ways with which I can explain it to you. Are we understanding it? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So after this, the next jump from this allocated cell to the next allocated cell would be what? This one? Correct? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So the next jump from there would be this one. Correct?
Yes, sir.
From here, the next jump would be to this particular cell. Fine. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Then the next jump from here would be to this cell. Have we completed the loop? हमेशा जरूरी नहीं कि चार ही corners हो. Okay. In this particular case, we have got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 corners. Correct? But the loop formation will always take place from one allocated cell to another allocated cell and so on. Okay. And now we'll again do it the same way. S1 yeah, plus or minus. Since this was the blank cell from where we have started, so we will assume an allocation +1 here. Okay. So इसमें और ज्यादा ऑप्शंस नहीं दिखाता है. ठीक है, we will put this one. Okay, so I will have a +1 allocation here. So in this cell, you will have it as -1. In this cell, again, +1. In this cell, -1. So alternate +1, -1 at the corners. So यहाँ पर अगर -1 हो रहा है तो यहाँ पर it would be +1. So we will have -1 here. और यहाँ पर +1 ऑलरेडी है. So the loop is formed. अब कभी भी ये करोगे तो ऑटोमेटिकली जहां पर से आप +1 शुरू कर रहे हो कॉर्नर्स में डालते डालते you will end up at +1 only. Clear?
Yes, sir.
Any doubts in this particular part?
No, sir.
Okay. So what we'll do is we'll see what is the net effect for this cell. So S2D4, our cost is getting increased by 7 first, then it is reduced by 8, so -8, then it is added by +5, then -4, then +6, then -8, and after that we are again reaching the same place, so we will not say add 7 again. So what is the net effect? Equals to 7 minus 8 is -1, -1 plus 5 is 4, 4 minus 4 is 0, plus 6 is 6, minus 8 is 6 minus 8 is -2. Since we have got -2, this indicates that my cost will reduce by 2,000 by 2 rupees per unit allocation in that particular cell. देखिए आप लोगों को हम लोगों ने जो लीस्ट कॉस्ट और वोगल्स अप्रोक्सीमेशन से किया है उसमें आपका कॉस्ट ऑटोमेटिकली रिड्यूस भी हो रहा था, करेक्ट? व्हेन वी हैड एन एलोकेशन इन दैट सेल, डू यू रिमेंबर दैट? आपको नॉर्थ वेस्ट कॉर्नर से यू हैव गॉट द टोटल कॉस्ट ऑफ एलोकेशन एज 80. ओके, टोटल कॉस्ट ऑफ एलोकेशन एज 80 और इसमें से जब आपने किया था टोटल कॉस्ट ऑफ एलोकेशन वाज 930. सो 80 से 30 मतलब सीधा सीधा 50 का डिफरेंस है, करेक्ट? यस और नो?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So this confirms our whatever working that we are doing. So if we make an allocation in S2D4, it will reduce our cost by 2,000 rupees per unit allocation. तो जितना भी आप डालोगे उसमें एक यूनिट डालोगे तो 2,000 कम होगा, 2 यूनिट डालोगे तो 4,000 कम होगा, and so on. Okay, we'll see how much we can do that. Okay, now let us look at these 2 other cells also. इनको भी कंफर्म कर, इनको भी कंप्लीट कर लेते हैं, ठीक है? So now we are left out with I'll just put this value here, -2 first. So just copy this और इसी को मॉडिफाई कर देंगे -2 and the font color would be ऐसे ले लेते हैं so that it would be visible and I'm making it bold. Fine. Now let us look at the other two. बाकी दो cells कौन से हैं? S3D2 and second is S3D3. Fine. We'll check these also. So if I look at this S3D2, how will my loop be formed? +7 -5 +4 -6, and I will again come back. Correct? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
So S3D2, it would be +7 -5 +4 -6. Correct? What is the net effect? 7 minus 5 is 2. 2 plus 4 is 6. 6 minus 6, 0. So it would be 0. That means there will not be any effect in this particular cell. So in case if an allocation is made in this cell, the net effect would be 0. I will put it in black only because we are not showing the working of it here. Fine. I hope you understood the working, the loop.
Yes,
Or
sir.
should I make the loop also for you? Hello?
No need,
So
sir.
could you please make the loop?
I will. I'll be doing it using black color. So if I'm starting from this point, okay, so this will go up to this cell. Fine. And या फिर आप ऐसे जा सकते हो या ऐसे जा सकते हो, whatever way you are comfortable. I'll just create a copy of it so that I can use them. So this is how you will form your loop. Correct? Then the next would be from here to here. Correct? And then is it fine? So +7 -5 +4 -6. Is it clear now for everybody?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. Now what about this last one? S3D3. S3D3. How the loop will be formed? I will assume an allocation here. So I will move to this cell. So it would be +5. Sorry, we'll start from this cell. So +6 -5. Then from here, I will move to this. So +4, एक सेकंड, ये इधर पर ये नहीं डिलीट हुआ. 6 -5 +4 -6, फिर +8 -6, and then back here. correct?
Yes, sir.
So net effect कितना हुआ? 6 minus 5 is 1. 1 plus 4 is 5. 5 minus 6 is minus 1. Minus 1 plus 8 is 7. 7 minus 6 is 1. So that means if an allocation is made in this cell, it would have increased the cost. Now the best part is, and that too by 1. So I'll just create a copy and I will indicate this. I call it as an opportunity cost. So in case if an allocation is made here, it will increase my cost by 1000 rupees per unit allocation or 1 rupees per unit allocation. Okay. यहाँ तक क्लियर है?
Yes, sir.
अभी आप एक चीज ऑब्जर्व करो, सिर्फ एक ही सेल में देखिए आपको कॉस्ट रिडक्शन का अपॉर्चुनिटी दिखा है, दैट इज S2D4. दैट मींस दिस वन. फाइन. सो व्हाट वी विल डू इज we'll just duplicate this slide. Okay. And बाकी का हम लोग सब पूरा हटा देंगे and we will only just keep for S2D4. तो सारे लूप्स और ये सब कुछ हटा दे रहा हूं मैं. Right? अब हमारे लिए मेन कौन सा है ये, दिस इज व्हाट इज इंपॉर्टेंट. सो व्हाट विल डू इज विल सी व्हाट इज द मैक्सिमम एलोकेशन पॉसिबल इन दिस सेल. सॉरी, मैंने इसका लूप भी डिलीट कर दिया, लूप रखना चाहिए था. I'm copying that loop and I'm putting it here. Okay. अभी ये लूप को चाहिए तो हम ब्लैक कर देते हैं so that would be very clearly visible. Is it okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay, this is that if the allocations are readjusted, we will be able to reduce the cost here. So per unit allocation will reduce my cost by 2000 rupees. So now let us see if I am going to ये भी अपने को लगेगा +1 -1. ठीक है, हम will create that thing again. So here, if I am making an allocation of, say, what is the maximum value that I can add there? Any idea? How much will I be able to add? कौन सा कलर ले लें? What is the maximum value that I can add? If I'm adding something here, I can subtract from here. Okay. So अब मैं इधर पर instead of +1 -1, I will say plus theta. Okay. Or let me put it properly, because ऐसे में बराबर आपको दिखेगा नहीं ना, so that will be problem. So let me create that value plus, and I will insert a symbol, say theta. Fine. Or I will put it here. इसका font color हम change कर देते हैं to plus theta. Now, from this cell, if I'm adding a value there, so I will have to subtract that value here. Okay. And if I'm subtracting it here, I will have to add it here. If I add it there, I'll have to subtract it here. Correct? इसको थोड़ा सा इधर रखता हूँ so that it is visible. When I am subtracting it from here, so I will have to add it at this vertex, and I will have to subtract it from. Correct? Yes, no. हमने +1 -1 डाला था. Now, उस वक्त हम लोग what we were doing was we were only just moving one unit. Now, what I am trying to do is I am trying to move the maximum number of units that will be represented by theta, and theta will be equal to, मेरा कोई भी वैल्यू नेगेटिव नहीं होना चाहिए. मतलब कोई भी एलोकेशन नेगेटिव नहीं होना चाहिए if I subtract something from it. So what you do is you identify जहां जहां पर भी थीटा वैल्यू आपका नेगेटिव है. Okay, so my theta value जहां जहां पर भी नेगेटिव है, that is what I am going to look at. So here allocation is 20, here the allocation is 10, and here the allocation is 50. The least allocation which can be moved or which can be subtracted from the allocations is 10. Because if I subtract 10 from here, this will become 0 instead of 10. I can subtract 10 from here, and I can subtract, जो बीच में का रहता है उनको हम कंसिडर नहीं करेंगे. हाँ, will get added here. So I will have an allocation of 10 units here. Okay. यहाँ पर से 50 में से 10 सब्ट्रैक्ट हो जाएगा. यहाँ पर एप्सिलॉन में 10 ऐड हो जाएगा. Okay. So if I add 10 to this epsilon, this becomes 10 plus epsilon. This becomes 10. This becomes 20 minus 10. So this becomes 10. What about this? 20 plus 10. So this becomes 30. Okay. 10 minus 10. This becomes 0. Fine. And 10 will get added here. So that is how it will get reallocated. So just theta would be equal to 10, which is the least allocation at the negative corners of the loop. Will you remember this now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So हम क्या करेंगे? As I keep on changing it, so यहाँ पर minus है. So 20 minus 10 will become 10. Here it will be added up. So 20 plus 10 will become 30. This will actually get इसको ये 0 हो जाएगा. अभी के लिए इसको कुछ नहीं कर रहा हूँ. Actually वो आपका ये 0 हो जाएगा तो ये आपका हट गया. यहाँ पर आपका ऐड हो रहा है. So this becomes 10. Okay. इसको कर देते हैं. Fine. ये आपका 30. उसके बाद में nothing will happen to this because this is an in between cell. यहाँ पर you will have 10 because there was no allocation. So no allocation plus 10 will give you 10 here. Okay. And this 50 minus 10 will become 40. So this becomes your new allocation. And if you look at the cost, total cost of allocation at this juncture will be how much? कितना आएगा? 10 into 4 plus 30 into 6 plus 50 into 6 plus 10 into 7 plus 40 into 8. अब आगे क्या? एक और बाकी है. 10 into 5 plus 10 into 5. कितना आता है? Can somebody please tell me?
660.
नहीं 660 नहीं होगा. 10 into 5 is 50. 10 into 4 is 40. तो 90 हो गया आपका. 90 plus 30 into 6 is 180.
960.
960. हाँ. So आप देखिए आपका कॉस्ट रिड्यूस हो गया. करेक्ट ना? यहाँ पर कितना था? 930 था. 960 नहीं होगा. Checking. This is 40. 40 plus 50 is 90. 90 plus 180 is 270. 270 plus 300 is 570. 570 plus 70 is 640. 640 plus 960. So you going. I will check. I would have committed some mistake anywhere. I will check and we'll do it in the next class. It's 11.